Hey, I'm Joe, and you may be wondering what to expect with your fence installation. So today, we're going to show you that process. All right, so this would apply for both a replacement like we're here today or a new install, but this is just going to show you the steps with both those scenarios of what it looks like to get your fence installed. All right, so once we get the job scheduled, you'll be notified by the office, and then as far as what to expect when we're getting started, either a day or two before we're starting the project or the morning of the start of the project, we will set up a time for one of our representatives to meet with you and to walk through the job one last time. Just make sure everybody's on the same page, everything is lined up the way that you are wanting it to be, and just go through that. And before we start putting holes in the ground or setting posts, we just want to make sure everything's clear. And then once that's done, you're good to go. We get asked that question a lot too, of like, do I have to be here while the guys are working? And no, once we walk through the project and make sure everything is good and kosher, then you are free to go and can allow the guys just to work and do their thing. So with the discussion of utility markings, we talked about private utilities and public utilities. With all the public utilities, we will call 811 or Arkansas One Call before we come out to dig. So what that is Arkansas One Call is a service that helps for damage prevention on utility lines. So they have a database of all the public utilities that are at your location, and we notify them, and then they notify all the applicable utility companies. So that could be electric, water, gas, cable, and so then for your expectations, within about that week before your install, you can expect to see some utility locators. So those would be guys that are either with the utility company or they're contracted for the utility company to come and locate those public utilities. So like here's an example of the electric and the cable is up overhead going into the meter to the house. So they won't mark anything on the ground. They'll only mark on the ground the utilities that are buried underground. But that is something we get asked about a lot, because you will have, maybe 2 or 3 different locators come to your home, and we have no control of when they come out. They don't notify us of when they're coming to your property. So you can just expect that they're going to come, they're going to check your meter, they'll put some paint on the ground of, hey, here's where your electric line is, here's where your water line is, gas, whatever it may be, and then they're in and out pretty quickly. But you should expect to see them typically within that week period of before your install, before we show up to install your fence. When you're replacing your fence, the neighbor relations and coordinating with your neighbors can be a key aspect of that as well. If you notice behind us, we've got some fence that we're not removing on this particular job because it happens to be the back neighbors, and they elected not to replace that, which is fine. But it just brings up a good point that there is some coordination needed between neighbors, like in this instance, and then on the 2 sides, those are both shared fences with neighbors. And so one, you want to coordinate with them and just notify them that, hey, we're going to be replacing these fences. So if they have dogs or kids or anything, to let them know the fence is going to be down for a few days, so make arrangements for that. If they need to keep a dog inside or board them, those are things that come up. And then also there's a wide array of like what neighbors are willing to do, and there's no set rule like, hey, we share this fence, you got to split it with me. But it is worth the conversation sometimes to say, hey, would you want to go in and help with this shared side of the fence and replace it? Sometimes you'll get people that will say, yeah, I'll contribute to the cost of that. Then sometimes you got people that say, heck no, I'm not going to do it, and they just leave it on to you. But all in all, communication is key with neighbors, letting them know what's going on letting them make arrangements for dogs and kids, and then also if you have the relationship with them, to potentially see if they're okay with replacing and if they would be willing to help with the cost of replacement. So with a replacement, the first thing that's going to happen is we'll come in and we'll start removing the fence sections. That we'll take down the fence sections, load those up to haul them off. Then we'll go after to the post and cut off and remove the post and haul those off as well. So that's a pretty quick process. All this is pretty fast moving once we get started. We'll tear the fence out on a typical backyard. It's going to be about an hour or so first off in the morning of tearing the fence out and getting it gone. Then right after that, we will start running our string lines and marking out for the new post to set the post, because the guys will dig and set the new post in concrete that first day. So on replacement, you would expect that first day for a typical yard to remove all the fence and then come and set the post that first day, get all that done. Yeah, so on that second day when we're allowing the concrete to set up, you won't expect to see us. We won't be on site. You'll just be looking at some nice new posts standing and looking nice, and some concrete in the ground hardening and getting ready for the completion the next day. Then the third day we would return and complete the fence. So with the wood, we'd run our 2x4s or install panels and do the gates and all that on that final third day. All right, so on the other side, if it's not removal, it's just new fence install. That first day we're gonna show up and we're gonna dig and set posts. Then again, we'll let the concrete set up over that second day, and then the third day come back and complete the fence. If it rains in between, typically that doesn't affect it unless it just totally saturates the yard in a way that is gonna make the grass too wet to where when we come back we're gonna damage something. As far as the concrete goes though, those are footings poured in the ground. So it's not like flat work where if it rains on top of it, it's gonna mess up the concrete. So with those footings, a little bit of rain's not gonna hurt it. It's also not gonna inhibit it from setting up and hardening like it should. So a little bit of rain in between is perfectly fine, shouldn't interrupt. But if we get a heavy rain, or if it rains us out on a prior job like completing, that can cascade or domino effect and pushing back a day or two. Hey, thanks for joining us for this fence install. We wanted to give you an idea of what a typical fence process looks like. So I hope that's helpful to be able to give you an expectation and a visual or inside look on what that looks like from start to finish.